This is the Louie T Network.
Draft Zone. Draft Zone.
Welcome, you are in the
Draft
lab room. I'm your host,
Zone.
Lou. Thank you for joining me here on this program, 2014 Draft Wrap-Up Series. Who's Next format. Simply put, be the first to leave a comment at the bottom of this and future videos stating next and the team you want to see next. So I simply need a comment from you stating the phrase next and the team that you want to see next. Now, all of that is irrelevant. It's a moot point if you're not first. You have to be the first to leave that comment in the comment section. If you're first and you leave me a comment that says next and the team that you want to see next in that comment, guess what? That team will be featured up next here on the 2014 NFL Draft Wrap-Up Series. How do we grade out the players? Simple. We use our baseball grading scale. Single, double, triple, home run. There are no strikeouts here in the Draft Wrap-Up Series, so we cannot tell how these players will pan out. Don't want to discount anybody, don't want to count anybody out, and so there are no strikeouts here in the Draft Wrap-Up Series. However, we will take the grade of each and every single player, average them up, get an aggregate score for each and every single team. They will get a final grade, and then we will mosey on to the next team who will be selected by you, the viewers, here on this program. Simple enough? So we'll move on to the next team in the process, and that happens to be the final team in the AFC East, the New England Patriots. And so we've done the Jets, we've done the Dolphins, we have done the Bills. Now we will clean up that division and finish out with the Patriots. The best. I guess we're saving the best for last in this division. Patriots, they really understand how to maneuver in the draft game. They know how to play the game. They're just not very good at it, okay? They know how to play the game. They understand how to maneuver the draft, how to move back, collect picks, get future draft picks. They just aren't very good at playing. They don't win, okay? They play the game well. So they can play it, they just don't win that often. And so let's see if they're able to come out of this draft feeling a lot better than past drafts for the New England Patriots. So got my handy dandy pointer, got my big board behind me for the assistance. What more do I need? Nothing. So let's get to the board and talk New England Patriots 2014 NFL Draft. So 9 picks in all for this Patriots football team. And we start in the first round, 29th overall selection, defensive tackle out of Florida, Dominique Easley. And I gave the Patriots a hard time about this pick when it was first made because I didn't know the story behind the pick. And that's why I love the early moments after the draft is over. Once it's fully completed and you are able to hear some of the stories that come out after the draft is done and some of the stories that evolve throughout the process of the draft, and you start to make sense of some of the things that didn't make a lot of sense to you before. This was one of those things that was one of those enlightening periods after the draft where I got one of those aha moments. Oh, okay, that's why they did what they did. When they took Dominique Easley, a guy coming off of ACL surgery that we really don't know when he'll be ready. Think he'll be ready here shortly, but you're not sure. Wasn't able to work out at any of the off-season workouts for teams, the combine, you know, East-West, none of that stuff. And being that he was coming off of an injury, he didn't have a pro day, didn't run, didn't do anything. So you really couldn't tell what you were getting. You had to watch the film And you had to be confident in what you were getting in a football player in Dominique Easley. And so when I thought about the pick, I'm saying to myself, if this guy's injured, normally teams, they beat up guys for being injured. If you're injured and you're not healthy and you can't perform at the combine and partake in these festivities leading up to the draft, if you can't show the scouts and the teams what they're going to be getting, what they're investing in, if they can't see it with their own two eyes, hey, you can watch all the tape you want. If I can't see it with my own two eyes, I don't trust it. I can't spend an early round pick on it. I'll have to wait. Now, look, you are a heck of a football player. I can see that on tape. But if I can't see what I'm getting, if I can't touch, if I can't see, if I can't look at the merchandise that I'll be investing in, then I'll wait until a little bit later on in the process, and then I'll snag you. And so normally guys who get injured, they're afterthoughts, okay? Maybe you're a first-round pick, you get injured. Maybe you drop to late second, early third round. Maybe you're a second-round pick, and because of an injury, you drop to the fifth round. I mean, guys forget about you very quickly when you get injured. So I thought Dominique Easley was a guy that flashed enormous potential at Florida. I mean, I'll explain him in a second, but back to how I reacted to the pick. I looked at him and I said, he'll be around in the second round. He'll be around in the third round. If you want him, he'll be there. Why did the Patriots feel the need to pull the trigger on this guy at 29? And I got my answer literally hours after the draft was completed. It turns out that the Seahawks, they said, hey, we like this guy. We feel like he'll be an excellent addition to our roster. If he's around at 32, we'll take him. And the Patriots got wind of that. They understood that there were some teams, maybe even the 49ers would have been interested in this guy. You know, they love to draft and stash players. And so even if this guy wasn't going to be ready anytime soon, the 49ers would have taken him and they would have redshirted him. And they do it all the time. And so the Patriots knew there are some teams behind us that could be very interested in this guy. And so I don't think they wanted to take the chance of allowing him to have to pass by the 49ers, to have to pass by the Denver Broncos, to have to pass by the Seattle Seahawks. They didn't want to allow this guy to have to pass through all of these other teams that are like-minded, like the Patriots, that see talent up in the, and again, I say this all the time, the game is won in the National Football League in the trenches. Defensive and offensive lines are where it's at. If you can stop the run and put pressure on the quarterback, you're going to be in ball games. If you can protect your quarterback and open up lanes for your running back, you're going to be in a lot of ball games and most likely win a lot of them. And so it's what you do up front that matters, and those teams in the back half of the draft understand that. And the Patriots knew, we like this guy, we like him a lot, and we can't allow another team that may be thinking the same way we're thinking snatch this guy up. And so that's what the Patriots heard, that's what they saw, and they understood that if we want this guy, we can't trade back. And remember, I was one of the people in the draft process saying, hey, I don't care what you do, New England. As long as you take a player and you don't trade out of the first round, I am happy with whatever you do. And so me saying that and them selecting this guy and then me flipping off the handle on him kind of contradicted what I said. But again, I just want to see the Patriots get good value. And at the time, I didn't feel like it was good value. I thought they could have waited. But lo and behold, no, they couldn't have waited. Had they passed on Dominique Easley, hoping he would fall to them, or maybe they would have the opportunity to trade up for him in the second round, he would have been long gone. Seahawks had every intention of snatching him up at 32. So good move by the Patriots to get their guy. You know the mantra, you know the motto. Get your guy when you feel the need to get your guy. And so they felt the need to get their guy at 29 in the first round. And let's talk about Dominique Easley, the football player. Here's a very eccentric guy, very eccentric. And he's one of these guys that you probably like having in your locker room. He's a guy that loves football, and he's a funny guy. He's a jokester. He's going to be laughing. I mean, there were a couple of tapes that I watched of this guy, and he's different. He's unique, and you like that. You don't want everybody to be the same. And he's one of these guys, they're playing some music on the loudspeaker right before they snap the ball, and he's got his hands going, and he's doing this right before the snap. I'm like, what is this guy doing? You know, he's just in the moment, you know, and you gotta like that. You gotta love that about Dominique Easley. He's one of these guys, he lines up wide in his stance at defensive tackle, and right before the snap to give the offensive lineman a different angle, because maybe that lineman is saying, okay, he's lining up wide, I'm just going to seal him to the inside. And right before the snap, he'll spin, okay? He'll do a spin back in front of that lineman, and that changes everything pre-snap. So you don't know what you're going to get out of Dominique Easley. This is what you know for certain. You're going to get 110% out of this guy on every single snap. And that's the one thing that I appreciate out of Dominique Easley, is that there's no quitting this guy. There's 110% of fight on every single snap out of Dominique Easley. And the thing that impressed me the most with this guy is you don't see big guys, when they're tired, give you everything they've got. When they get tired, they just stand up. And I talked about that with several other guys that were drafted by other teams. And when that motor runs cold, when they're tired, that motor shuts off, okay? And you don't get anything out of them. When Dominique Easley is tired, and this guy plays a high volume of snaps at Florida, when he was tired, you couldn't tell, because he was still trying to go after it. He was giving you everything he had. And he's one of these guys that, by hook or by crook, if he's got to crawl to the ball carrier, he will. He's got a bull rush that he does, all right, where he just absolutely turns his back. He's got shoulder, back, and everything going into the offensive lineman, and he's driving this guy back 3-4 yards into the backfield. Now, he doesn't know what the hell is going on. He doesn't know if the ball carrier has been affected by his bull rush, or if the ball carrier has just went right by him, or if the ball carrier went to the outside. All he knows is he's blowing up the play. And you can appreciate that, because, again, I talk about this all the time with defensive linemen. You never want to look at just pure stats, especially at nose tackle, at defensive tackle. You don't want to look at pure stats when trying to gauge the importance of a defensive tackle, because they impact the play in so many different ways other than just getting a tackle or getting a sack. They impact the play by what they do, how they blow up a gap, how they make a running back have to adjust to what they've done on a play, can alter a play and how many yards are gained or not gained. And so when you look at a guy like Dominique Easley, and he's backing in a offensive guard as if he's playing basketball, and he's in the post calling for the basketball, and he's dribbling down trying to get post position and get an easy bucket. When you see him with his back completely turned to the lineman, yet he's driving him back 3-4 yards into the backfield, he's impacting the play. He may not get the tackle because he doesn't know where the running back is. I saw a couple of times where he's got a shoulder into, literally one shoulder, and you rarely see this, into the guard, driving him into the backfield. Now, he has no clue where the running back is. The running back runs right by him. He turns around and he's looking. He can't find him because he just ran right by him. But he blew up the play, allowed his teammates to come in and get a tackle for losses. So those are the things you get from Dominique Easley. He's going to do everything in his power to make his presence felt on the football field. And I love the hustle. I love the enthusiasm, the zest, the life he has for the game of football. He's a guy that's just out there just having fun. And he's going to do everything he can to help his team make plays and his defense to get off the field on third downs. And he's quick, too. He can get into the backfield. He can go after the quarterback. He can beat you with a quick first step. But he can translate that quickness and speed to power and use it to get into the backfield. And so he's a guy that's just a disruptor, and he's really good at what he does. Now I want to see how he comes back from this injury, and if he is the same guy, because in 2012 he was dominant. In 2013 he was a force down there. And so I want to see what he brings to the table when he comes back. I want to see if he's the same guy, because if he is, this is a really good pickup for the New England Patriots. And we saw all the injuries and what they dealt with a season ago when Vince Wilfork went down. I thought that Joe Villano played really well, but Joe Villano isn't a game wrecker. Dominique Easley can be a game wrecker, and we'll see what he does when he comes back. That's the only question I have. That's why this isn't a home run. Can't give him a home run because he's coming off an injury, and I just want to make sure I'm getting the same guy that I saw in 2012. That was electric, that helped Florida get to the #3 overall team in the nation because of that dominant defense. I want to see if he's the guy that in 2013 was making plays and making a name for himself, carving out a niche on that Florida defensive line. I want to see if we're getting that same guy or not, because you just never know when guys are coming off injuries. We sometimes take it for granted. Oh, it's just an ACL surgery. They happen all the time. Guys come back. It's ho-hum. That's not the case. You do not ever want to just assume a guy's going to be the same after major knee surgery. And so, in the first round, 29th overall selection, defensive tackle out of Florida, Dominique Easley. For me, he is a triple. I like what this guy brings to the table. I think he's going to be a force if he is healthy, if he's the same guy. Again, he's never out of a play. He hustles. He gives you everything he's got. He's eccentric. He's a guy that's a little bit different. And his tactics and technique to get to the quarterback, to get in the backfield, to get to the running back, a lot of times are unique. They are different, but all the same, they are effective. And I like Dominique Easley in the first round, 29th overall selection by the New England Patriots, defensive tackle out of Florida. So we move on to the second round, 62nd pick, quarterback out of Eastern Illinois, Jimmy Garoppolo. And when I saw this pick and when it was made, I thought to myself, what a brilliant pick. Brilliant is what I thought. And a lot of people were really getting upset. And I saw all the messages on Twitter, and I had people banging my YouTube channel telling me, oh, this is a mistake. Why are they picking Jimmy Garoppolo when they already got a quarterback in Ryan Mallett? And I'm saying to myself, the Patriots don't want Ryan Mallett. I mean, they're using him as a chip. Now, look, the Patriots will tell you and anybody that will listen, oh, we want Ryan Mallett. We're holding on to Ryan Mallett. Ryan Mallett is not the future in New England. And look, as far as I'm concerned, the Patriots are going to have to kick Tom Brady out of New England because he's one of those gym rats. He's one of those football rats that he's going to hang on until he's not Brett Favre. He's not one of these guys that you're going to be able to get out of the door easily and you're going to have to pry the football out of Tom Brady's hands. He wants to play football until he's 50. And so somebody's going to have to get in Tom's ear and say, hey, man, it's been a good run. And you're one of the best ever to do it. But you got to go, man. You got to go, Tom. You got to give it up. And I don't see that happening in the next 2 or 3 seasons. Ryan Mallett isn't going to be around in the next 2 or 3 seasons. So what do? You get a quarterback that you can develop, that can learn behind Tom Brady, that can learn how to be a professional. You want to trade Ryan Mallett away. You want a Brian Hoyer Ryan Mallett. You want a Matt Castle Ryan Mallett. You don't want to keep him around as the future of this franchise. You want to keep him around long enough so that he's an asset that you can trade away. Now, I don't know if you'll be able to do that. I don't know if his window has come and gone. I thought this was the year to get rid of Ryan Mallett. I thought the Houston Texans, Bill O'Brien, would come calling, and I thought it was the perfect situation for the Patriots to get rid of him. An ex-Patriots offensive coordinator that's worked closely with Ryan Mallett, that understands what this guy can and can't do, knows him in and out, and feels like, hey, I can make a starter out of this guy. Hey, I can make this guy a stopgap. Hey, he'll fit perfect in my scheme and what I want to bring to Houston. Hey, let me go snatch him up from the Patriots. And you know the Patriots will do business with Bill O'Brien because he's a Patriot guy. So those ties never wash away. So I figured, hey, slide those guys a 4th round selection, and the Patriots would part ways with Ryan Mallett, and they keep it moving. A 3rd rounder, maybe. You might be able to squeeze a 3rd rounder out of the Texans, but I thought this was the year to get rid of Ryan Mallett. But they didn't. Maybe an injury or two in camp, and I think that's what the Patriots are ultimately waiting on, is for a quarterback or two to go down in camp, some teams to panic, and the Patriots will be waiting right there with open arms. Hey, I got a quarterback for you, man. What you trying to give up? What's it to you? And that's when they'll get somebody for a 2nd rounder, and the Patriots will be sitting there grinning ear to ear because they were able to pull the wool over someone's eyes again and getting rid of Ryan Mallett. But back to Jimmy Garoppolo, okay? Here's a guy out of Eastern Illinois, same college that produced Tony Romo, And everybody wants to make the comparisons to Tony Romo. You know, comparable size. The release is lightning quick. I've never, and everybody wants to talk about Dan Marino and how quick his release is. I don't know if we'll ever get a release that quick again, but damn it. I don't know if I've ever seen a release as fast as Jimmy Garoppolo's. I mean, when he decides to fling it, boom, it's gone. I mean, if you blink, the play's over. That's how fast the release is. And I'm like, man, that's lightning quick there. He's got arm strength. He's got functional mobility. If you give him an opportunity to get out of the pocket and create with his legs, he'll do so. He's got plenty of arm strength, enough so that if he's moving on the run, he can still deliver a dart. It's quick. It's compact. His feet are always moving. He's got Peyton Manning-like feet in the sense that, you know how Peyton Manning has the hop always going, even if he's this way, even if he's that way, even if he's that way. Peyton Manning's feet are always moving. Same thing with Jimmy Garoppolo. You watch his feet, and they're always moving. And when your feet are in constant motion, it's easier for you to reset up, shop, and deliver the football quickly. So if you're facing this way, your feet are moving, and then you don't see that read or it's not open, and you can quickly reset, find your second option. He's wide open. You can reset the feet quickly and get rid of the football. And so you see that out of Jimmy Garoppolo, a guy that feet are always moving, quick release. So those two things, you pair them up together, and you feel like, man, that's a match made in heaven. Now, some of the drawbacks of Jimmy Garoppolo, him playing at Eastern Illinois, a smaller school, that's one. The level of competition, you really don't know. Again, my only prerequisite for a guy that goes to a small school, dominate the competition. Jimmy Garoppolo did exactly that. I think he only threw like 7 INTs or something ridiculous like that all season long. So, look, dominate the competition, check for Jimmy Garoppolo. So, he did the only thing that I require of guys that go to smaller schools. Now, you can't control the level of competition. All you can do is go out and dominate it, and he did that. Now, here's the knock that I have on him, okay? He basically exclusively played out of the shotgun, okay? Now, I know some people don't put a lot of stock and value into that. I, however, do, okay? In this league, you got to be able to come from under center. Now, I don't know if that's going to be a tough transition. For some guys, it's nothing. And, they did it before in high school. They end up going to college, and they're under center, 5-10% of the time, and they're in the shotgun and the pistol for the majority of the time. And they could easily go back to their high school days and lean on that and have no problem coming from under center. But for some guys, they lived in the shotgun in high school and in college. And so when you ask them to come from under center, it's a little different because, again, when you're in the shotgun, you see everything. You never have to turn your back to the defense. Everything is right there in front of you. You see blitzes coming at you. You see everything. And the game comes to you a little bit easier. Again, now, when you're in the shotgun, you got to wait on the football. You can't get rid of it as fast. And there's some drawbacks to being in the shotgun. Teams can come after you. And so there's some different things about the shotgun. But in the NFL, you want to be able to run the football. It's hard to run the football consistently out of a pistol or a spread or a shotgun look. You want to give defenses different looks. You want to be able to come from under the center, hand the football off. You want to be able to come from under the center, hand the football off. Oh, no, pull it back out, play action fake, go up top, have defenses biting on that. So when you come from under center, you give the defense a different look. And every single team in the National Football League has their quarterback playing from under center. Now, some more so than others, but nonetheless, you got to be able to play from under the center. And so that's something that I put a lot of stock into, because if you are playing from under the center, guess what? You got to turn your back to the defense at some point. And you don't know what's going on. You don't know if it's an all-out blitz coming your way. You don't know what's happening. All you know is you made your pre-snap read. They could have changed the look up as soon as you snap the ball. You go and turn around and you're thinking in your head, okay, it's cover 3. I know exactly what I'm going to do with the football. You turn around, you got a corner coming off the edge, and you got a linebacker coming up the middle of the field. Now, all of a sudden, things have changed, and you got a split second to make a decision. What are you going to do? If you're not used to that, if you haven't made that adjustment, and your footwork also changes because, again, in college, when he was in the shotgun, it was quick. Catch the football, reset the feet, let it go. All right, when you are coming from under center, There's 3-step drops. There's 5-step drops. There's 7-step drops. You got to be able to make all of those things happen. The footwork needs to be clean, and you've got to be able to make sure that you can manipulate the defense, turn around, find in the open receiver, make a play. And doing all of that quickly and fluidly is something that guys struggle with coming out of college when they come out of a pistol or a spread or a shotgun look at the quarterback position. So it'll be interesting to see how he makes that transition. But to me, I think that he's got all the skills you're looking for. The ability to zing the football into tight spaces, the ability to get rid of it quickly. I talked about the quick release already. He's got mobility, so you can run bootleg, play action fakes. You can get him out of the pocket, roll him a little bit. You can allow him to get outside the pocket and be a moving target. No one wants a sitting duck at the quarterback position. Again, you don't want to know where the address of the quarterback is on every single snap. You want the defense to have to find this guy so you can move the pocket with him. And so there's a lot to like here with Jimmy Garoppolo, quarterback out of Eastern Illinois. The question that I have is, how is he going to make the transition? Again, how is the speed of the game? Because, again, when you're playing at a smaller school, the speed of the game is a lot slower than it is in the National Football League. How is the level of competition that he'll be facing now? How is that going to impact him? Is he going to be able to make, and he'll be able to make the transition, getting under center and all that stuff. That's not something that I really worry about that much. I put a lot of stock into it, but I feel like if you're a quarterback, you should be able to make that transition. Just how long is it going to take you to make it? So I'm more concerned about the level of competition and the speed of the game. How will that impact him? And he's going to have plenty of time to learn, though. Now, all these things that I'm talking about, it's not like this guy's playing now. He's not playing next year. You won't see Jimmy Garoppolo on the field other than preseason action. Unless Tom Brady gets injured, you won't see this guy for the next 3 years. So Jimmy Garoppolo is one of these guys, you draft him and you stash him on the roster. He learns. He'll be wearing the hat, the ball cap, and the clipboard will be in his hand. And so he'll have a lot of time to learn, but I like the fact that you've got a guy behind Tom Brady that reminds you somewhat of Tom Brady. He doesn't have the size or the pocket command like a Tom Brady, but Tom Brady has probably the best mechanics of any quarterback in the league. And Jimmy Garoppolo has all the makings of a guy that can have some of the best mechanics in the league. Now he'll get to learn from the best in the league in a guy like Tom Brady. And so it's a wonderful pickup for me. In the second round, 62nd overall, quarterback out of Eastern Illinois, Jimmy Garoppolo. For me, he's a triple. I think the Patriots got it right here by getting a quarterback of the future in this draft. This isn't the one that they are drafting and going to dangle in front of people 2 or 3 years down the road. That's Ryan Mallett. He's the quarterback of the future. This is the first time the Patriots have selected a quarterback, and they actually selected this guy with every intentions of him being the future face of the franchise. This is the first time you can actually say, this is the one. This is the guy they're drafting to have around when Tom Brady isn't our quarterback any longer. And so, you move on to the 4th round, 105th overall selection, center out of Florida State, Brian Stork. Here's a center that probably one of the most prolific offenses in college football in 2013, was a part of the offensive line that was one of the best in the league, or excuse me, in the nation. And Brian Stork, he's just one of these guys. It's not pretty. And I say that a lot, but with Brian Stork, it really isn't pretty, okay? There's nothing here that you see that he's going to wow you. He doesn't blow guys up. He's not pancaking people. He's not moving guys out of the way. He is just stout at the point of attack. And whatever you ask him to do, he can do it. He can call the game from the center position, set up protections, calling out blitzes and what may have you. He's a guy that can get to the second level. He can get out there on the screen. He can go get to that second wave of defenders and seal off the inside on a run. And so he does all of those things. Sometimes he struggles getting to that cut block. If they're running a stretch and he's got to get to that linebacker on the second level, get his head in front of that linebacker so that he can cut him. Sometimes he struggles getting out there, getting his helmet in front of the legs of that offensive lineman, because you know if you're behind him, it's a clip. And so sometimes he can't get all the way out there. He's not fast enough. He's not athletic enough. But Everything they ask him to do at Florida State, he does it, and he goes about it human-like. There are no ifs, ands, or buts about if Brian Stork is going to get it done or not. The question with him is always simple. Can he clear out enough space for me to go and run behind him and feel confident that I'm about to pick up 5 yards? Because if you get a guy that's solid and stout at the point of attack on the defensive side of the football, and he's got a paw doom, he can stick it out there and latch on to the running back. Brian Stork isn't clearing out any space necessarily. He's getting in the way. He's going to do his job. And the one thing I can say about Brian Stork is he sticks to defenders like glue. If he gets his hands on you, you're not getting off. There's no stacking and shedding with Brian Stork. You don't get rid of him. You don't disregard him. Okay? You don't discard him once the play comes your way. If he's on you, and so if you're one of these guys that you stack and shed, so you get your hands on the center, you're just waiting and waiting, and you see the play developing and it's coming your way, and you're thinking you're about to get rid of this guy, throw him to the side, and make the play. When Brian Stork gets his hands on you, and you're waiting, you're like, yeah, I'm about to get rid of this guy, I'm about to discard him right now, and you go through you're not going anywhere. You're not getting rid of this guy. You're not shedding him and getting to the ball carrier. So if Brian Stork gets a hold of you, chances are you're not getting in on the tackle unless you have a paw doom. And that's the only thing I worry about with him is in the National Football League, guys generally, and if you get the elite ones up front, they have paws of doom. They stick it out there, latch on to the ball carrier, and they're going to get him down on the ground. And Brian Stork doesn't move the pile necessarily, but again, he does his job. He does it well, and you won't get any complaints. And the one thing, I say this all the time about the Patriots, they don't win in the draft game. They know how to play the game. They just don't win often. The one thing I can say about the Patriots over the years is that they draft offensive linemen well. Okay, now all the skill positions, running back, receiver, all those positions, maybe outside of tight end, they did a really good job. And they really only had one draft where they did really good at the tight end position. And that was the one that landed them Hernandez and Gronkowski. But this is a team that generally whiffs on skill guys, offensive and defensive. So you always question them in the draft game when it comes to that. But you can never question the Patriots on offensive linemen because they got a hit rate on offensive linemen that's out of this world, okay? You can go back as far as you like, man. They don't normally miss on offensive linemen. And so this is a really good pick. In the 4th round, 105th selection overall, center out of Florida State, Brian Stork for me. I like this guy a lot. I like him as a double here. I wanted to give him a triple, but he didn't move guys out of the way. He like I said, he's going to do his job, but he's not a guy that I would want to run behind on 3rd and 2 necessarily. Again, because as a group, he can help a line get it done, and he's going to do his job. But one-on-one blocking a guy, if this guy's big and he's stout and he's physical and he's got a paw doom, he's going to give Brian Stork not necessarily issues, but he's going to be able to stand up Brian Stork at the line of scrimmage, and if that running back comes right up that gap, that guy's going to be able to either get in the way or he's going to be able to pull that ball carrier down. And so that's the only issue I have with Brian Stork. And of course, I talked about this. Sometimes he struggles getting to the second level, especially when he's got to get up the field and to the outside. That's normally an area of weakness for Brian Stork. But I like the guy. I like what he brings to the table. I think he's going to be a solid addition to this team. You look at the 4th round, 130th overall selection, running back out of Wisconsin, James White. And this is what the Patriots do. At the running back position, they get backs that they're not 3-down backs. They're not guys that you want to necessarily hand the football off to 25 or 27 times. They're specialists. Each back has a specialized role within the offense. They're what you call a stable of backs. They don't have one guy that you give it to 25 times that can block on 3rd downs and catch it out of the backfield as well. They don't do 3-down backs in New England. They do specialized role backs. Everyone has a specific job. You might be the third and short back, like a LeGarrette Blount, guy that we turn around and hand it to late in the game when the defense is tired and we're wearing on them. Now we hand LeGarrette Blount the ball and ask them to get this 247-pound back on the ground. Good luck. You might be, remember the Kevin Falk days? Now they have Shane Vereen in that role, a guy that you come in on third downs, he'll chip you, he'll get out of the backfield, he'll catch a screen, he'll run a wheel route up the sideline, they'll throw it to him. He's a guy that's in the game really for his pass catching ability. Every now and again he'll pop one in the running game, but his role on the team is to catch the football out of the backfield. Mismatch for the linebacker, for the safety. He's going to win those matchups 9 times out of 10. They're going to get him the football in that West Coast offense out of the backfield. And so everybody has a specialized role. And Stephen Ridley's role on the team is supposed to be the physical, in-between the tackles runner that is going to wear on you, and then they're going to bring in a guy like LeGarrette Blount to finish the job. And Stephen Ridley's job is to wear you down, to be the guy to get 3 yards, 4 yards, 3 yards, 2 yards, 7 yards, maybe pop one for 25. But that was supposed to be his job, but he likes to fumble, okay? And Bill Belichick doesn't have a high tolerance for guys that put the football on the ground. And so what Belichick was looking for essentially with this pick, James White, running back out of Wisconsin, was somebody that wasn't going to put the football on the carpet, okay? Don't put it on the ground. Don't put it on the carpet. So he might have had guys in his ear during the process like, hey, coach, a couple of scouts in there saying, hey, this guy's okay, but I know of 2 or 3 other backs that would fit our system perfectly. And I tell you what, if you give these guys an opportunity, you'll like what you see. Do they fumble the football? Well, they've had an issue too. Do they fumble the football? Well, okay, give me the guy out of Wisconsin that doesn't fumble the football. But coach, he only runs a 4.57. Does he fumble the football? No. Give me the guy out of Wisconsin that doesn't fumble the football. And so that's how James White ended up on this roster, because he doesn't fumble the football. Okay, forget about the 4.57 40. I think he plays a little faster than that anyway. However, speed doesn't lie. I mean, he's a 4.5 type of guy. He's not going to outrun a lot of people. And his job is going to be, hey, you run the football. You can bounce it outside it sometimes, but we're looking for you to run it in between the tackles, be on the field on third. He's supposed to be the multifaceted, all-purpose type of guy. He's not going to be great at one thing. He's not a guy you want to hand the football off to 27 times. He's not the guy that you want in the game on every single third down, but he can catch the football. He can block in the run game. He can block pass pro. He can do all the things you're looking for. Well, nothing great, but he'll do it well. And he'll just be another back in the stable. He won't stand out from the crowd. He'll just be another back that the Patriots can throw at you when Stephen Ridley wants to go on one of these fumble binges and Belichick decides, you're not playing this week. You're not even dressing this week. You're in a doghouse. Sit down. Go sit down and shut up somewhere in the corner. This guy will get some more touches and some more carries, and he'll be on the field on third downs a little bit more often, and he'll be the guy that picks up the slack. But he's nobody special. I mean, he didn't stand out from the crowd. He's a solid back that doesn't put the football on the ground, does everything you ask him to do well, just not exceptionally great. He doesn't do anything earth-shattering, not going to wow you with any of his measurables. He's 5'9", solid size, around 200 pounds or so. But again, he did nothing great. He was a backup running back at Wisconsin his entire career. He was behind every single one of their starting backs. He was the other guy, always, behind Monty Ball, behind John Clay, behind the running back that they have now. He's always the other guy. In New England, he'll just be another guy. So in the 4th round, 130th overall selection, running back out of Wisconsin, James White for me, he's a solid double. I mean, I don't have anything against this guy. I think he's a solid football player, going to do whatever you ask him to do, going to do it well, just not going to do it in a way that's going to separate him from the other backs on this football team. I know one thing he won't do. He won't put it on the floor. And Bill Belichick right now is looking for a guy that simply won't put the ball on the carpet. So you move on to the third of these 3 fourth-round picks. 140th overall, offensive tackle out of Stanford, Cameron Fleming. And when I look at Cameron Fleming, this is a guy that I think Mike Mayock summed it up best. He just doesn't get beat. I mean, nothing flashy here, man. Nothing here to see. Move on. All right? Nothing here. And I watched about 3 tapes of this guy. And just to see if Mike Mayock was right, you know, you hear people say things, they throw out cliches just for the sake of saying it. And again, Mike Mayock, for me, around this time of the year, he's gold, man. I mean, there's not a guy better at what he does than him. And so, I tell you what, when he says something, my ears are open. I'm listening. I'm at attention. And so when he tells me that this guy doesn't get beat, I'm looking on the tape and I'm trying to find an instance where he gets beat so I can say, aha, caught you slipping, Mike. But Mike was right. This guy doesn't get beat. I watched 3 tapes and he got beat once. But I tell you what, it didn't matter because he knew it was 3-step drop. He knew the football was coming out quick. And the ball came out quick. And the guy that ran by him was a blitzer. And he just shoved him. He just pushed him just to give the quarterback enough time to get rid of the football because he actually had a responsibility inside, but the guard took care of it. And so there was a blitzer coming free on the outside, and he just gave him a shove around the corner like, hey, good luck. I'm going to push you around the edge. If you still get there, then that means the quarterback held on to the ball longer than 3 steps. That back foot hit the ground, and he didn't get rid of the football. That's not on me. And so that was the only time he got beat. But other than that, and I don't even count that one. Other than that, when the guy was lined up in front of him, he handled his business. Whether it was speed to the outside, power to the outside, speed to the inside, it didn't matter. He did a good job of mirroring defenders. He did a great job of washing guys inside in the run game. It just didn't matter. Whatever he needed to do to get his job done on that particular play, he did it. He skip blocked a couple of times. He got to the outside. He was the key kick-out block on a few wide receiver screens, on a couple of bubble screens. His block was the one that keyed the touchdown, and so he can get outside and be that guy that pulls and gets out there and sets that play up. And what more can I say? What more can I say? Cameron Fleming, he's just a really solid football player, man. I mean, he didn't get beat. He just doesn't get beat. Mike Mayock said it best. I don't really have much to say. In the run game, he's solid. He does his job. And the thing I like about Stanford, when you're watching an offensive lineman on tape for them, is that they put their offensive linemen through the full gamut. They're running counters. They're running sweeps. They're running stretches. They're running wide receiver screens. You name it, that offensive lineman is going to do it all in one game. And you know Stanford is a power running football team. So they're going to run it at least 35 times in any given game. So you're going to have ample opportunities to see this guy run blocking. Then they're going to drop back and pass when you're looking for run. And you're going to see this guy out in space. And there are going to be instances where he's on an island one-on-one against a guy and he's got to win. And he did that. And so you get to see everything. The bubble screens, the wide receiver screens, the quick hitters, the screens, the counters, the traps, the draws, the sweeps, the stretches. You see it all in one game. But I was able to pull up 3 tapes, watch them, and the guy was flawless. Again, not pretty, and he's not going to pancake a lot of people. You know, he's just going to do his job. And this is what the Patriots draft. They draft guys that just win one-on-one matchups on the offensive line. And I told you, the Patriots, you can say what you want about their failures in drafting receivers over the years, of drafting running backs, of drafting skill guys, safeties, corners, you name it. They've had flop after flop at multiple positions. You can't say that about the offensive line. And go ahead and add Cameron Fleming to the mix, because I'm telling you right now, in 2 years, 3 years down the road, he'll be starting. He'll be one of these guys looking for a sizable contract. The Patriots will say, hey, you can walk away, see if you find another deal. We'll be here, and he'll come back and he'll remain a Patriot like the rest of these guys like Sebastian Vollmer and company do. And he'll be around as a Patriot, and he'll get it done. And it wouldn't surprise me if in 2 years this guy's starting for you. And you don't hear a peep out of anybody on that right side of the offensive line because they're not doing anything. Because Cameron Fleming is taking care of business. And so, in the 4th round, 140th overall selection, offensive tackle out of Stanford, Cameron Fleming, for me, he's actually a triple for me. I mean, I watched this guy, and I was waiting for something to happen, and nothing happened. The best thing you could do as an offensive lineman for me is make the tape boring. Make it boring. There's nothing to see. Move on. Seriously. Move on. Put on some other tape. There's nothing to see here. I'm just going to do my job, and I'm going to do it well. And there's no excitement over here. Nobody's beating me to the quarterback. There's no holding penalties over here. There's nobody reaching out and throwing me all to the side and getting into the backfield and making a play for a 2-yard loss on the ball carrier. None of that's going on over here. I'm not whiffing on any blocks. I'm not getting on the ground and missing and my guy is free to make a tackle. I'm just doing my job. And I'm doing it well. Hard hat, lunch pail, I'm getting the job done every single time. And so, for me, that's what Cameron Fleming is. He's a triple in the 4th round. We go to the 6th round. 3 of these 6th-round picks for the Patriots. 179th overall selection, guard out of Florida. John Jalapeno is the selection. And he's a guy that was around at Florida for a long time. And he's a tough guy. Played with some injuries, dealt with some injuries, never complained, just went out and got the job done. And for me, the 2 tapes that really interest me and the 2 tapes that I was able to get my hands on, and it was perfect because you like to see maturation from a guy. You like to see from year to year what they're doing on the field. And it's always great when it's against the same team, and that team is normally loaded with talent. And so I was able to watch 2012 LSU tape and in 2013 LSU tape, which was perfect, which was fine by me because it gives me perspective on what this guy's out there doing at the guard position. And so I watched the 2012 tape first. And what I saw, and it's funny because sometimes when you go backwards, you're reminded of just how loaded some of these teams are in college. And you know LSU routinely, it's one of these teams that's loaded on the defensive side of football. And on that tape, there was Barkevious Mingo, there was Mentor, there was Anthony Johnson, there was Benny Logan. I mean, they were loaded on defense, on that front 7. And so to see all of these guys being thrown at Jalapeno and see how he was able to do, somewhat impressive. Now, I'll tell you what, he was beaten quite a bit, all right? But for the amount of talent that LSU brings to the table and the amount of talent that you see in the SEC week in and week out, he holds his own. But I'll tell you what, Anthony Johnson was giving this guy fits. All right, Benny Logan beat him inside for a sack. Split a double team, got to the quarterback, got him for a sack. Barkevious Mingo ran right by him, got a sack. So he gave up some pressures. He was beaten on some running plays sometimes, but all in all, the guy is athletic. And this is the thing that, for me, kind of wins me over with John Jalapeno is when he gets his hands on you and he gets to square up, okay? His problem when he gets beat in technique, when he's pass blocking, is when he's got to shuffle his feet, he's not set, he hasn't anchored, and a guy athletically gets to beat him, gets him moving, and he doesn't get to set up because he wins with power. He wins with sheer physicality. He doesn't win with athleticism. He's not going to initially be beat off the ball, but because he's athletic, be able to recover and still keep his quarterback clean. If he's beaten initially with athleticism, he's beaten. But when he gets to anchor and he gets his hands on someone, forget about it. You're not going anywhere. The guy is strong. And he's one of these Samoan guys, so he's Samoan strong, okay? He's just a big physical guy. And when he gets to sandbag it, you're not going anywhere, okay? You're not moving. He's not moving. Forget about it. Forget about it, okay? But his thing is when he's got to move and the feet aren't set, you've got an opportunity. Now, you better take advantage of it because he's not set, he's not centered, he's not squared up. you better take advantage of it, because once he does, you're not getting to the quarterback. You're not getting to the ball carrier. So his thing is he needs to be squared up. He needs to be in a position where he can anchor. Now, when he's in the run game, and they pulled him an awful lot at Florida, and one of their favorite plays with him was a skip block where he comes up and he skips and he pulls over, and they love to run behind him on that particular play. And he comes down and he traps the inside and seals it. And there's a couple of plays that come to mind. One of them was so impressive. Okay, so they run. LSU had been blitzing up the A and B gap all game long, and they had a lot of success with it. And so they decided, we're going to skip block. We're going to block down. Jalapeno is going to come over, skip block, pull, trap down on that blitzing linebacker, and allow us to kick it outside. We're going to seal off the edge, leave a huge cutback lane, because they were blitzing from the outside into the inside. So it was almost like they were running stunts and coming with an extra defender from that way to that side, and they were really putting pressure on the interior of this Florida offensive line. So what they did was they packed everything inside, pulled Jalapeno around, sealed the inside off, then they created a lane, and Gillespie, the running back for Florida, with a lot of speed, was able to get outside. And the beauty of this play was Jalapeno skip blocks, comes over, pulls. There's a blitzing linebacker coming up the middle, and he stonewalls him from his knees. He falls down, and it's funny because you know how running backs, they're so impatient, all right? They're almost like a boyfriend or a husband. They're ready to go. You've been dressed. You've been ready to go. But your wife or your girlfriend, they're still doing their makeup. And you're looking at your watch and you're like, damn, they're not ready yet. Will you hurry up? And running backs are the same way when they get out in space. When a big nasty gets in front of them and they're running as fast as they possibly can, they're running at 5.0340 in front of that running back that runs a 4.47 or a 4.52, and he's ready to take off and accelerate. And this lineman is in front of him. You know what the running backs like to do? They put their hand on the back of the lineman, and the minute they're ready to take off, they shove the lineman at that defender, and they take off. And Gillespie is no different. He pulls around, does Jalapeno, and that defender is bearing down immediately as Gillespie gets the football, and he sees him, and he sees his big burly guard coming around, and he shoves him. And he knocks him on the ground, but Jalapeno gets on his knees and stonewalls the guy, and Gillespie gets outside and picks up about 27 on the play. It was beautiful. It's a thing of beauty, and that's what he brings to the table. He's got functional movement skills. He's strong as an ox. If he gets his hands on you and he has a situation and he has the opportunity to set himself and anchor, he's not going anywhere. If you're going to beat this guy, you're going to have to get him moving his feet, and you're going to have to be athletically superior to him. And you're not just beating him with sheer physicality. A lot of guys try. Many guys have failed. I saw guys bull rush him, and Anthony Johnson did bull rush him once or twice and get into the backfield, but he didn't win, okay? He blew up the play somewhat, but he stood his ground. He held his own, and John Jalapeno, to me, is a solid addition to this team. Is he a starter right away? I don't think so. I don't think he's a guy that's going to come in and challenge to start, but he's depth along this offensive line. Give him a year or two. If they get him fundamentally sound and get him set in his technique and show him how to use his hands a little bit better, especially when you get guys with speed, he's got to be able to get his hands on them and initiate some contact, and just don't let them blow by you. Don't let them win to the inside. If he can learn some better technique and use his hands a little bit better, I think he can be a guy that can start down the line. But for right now, I look at him as some solid depth along this offensive line in the 6th round, 179th overall selection, guard out of Florida. John Jalapeno, for me, is a double. We move on to the 6th round, second selection in the 6th round for this Patriots football team. 198th overall selection, defensive end out of Concordia by way of Minnesota, Zach Moore. And I hate watching tape on small school guys, these, D2 guys. You basically get high school footage on these guys, and it was bad. I barely was able to conjure up any tape on this guy. What I did see was a guy that is extremely athletic. You know, my one and only prerequisite for guys that play at small schools, where the level of competition is in question. I just ask you to do one thing, and that's dominate. And he dominated, but I didn't see it. You see that he had 14 sacks, which sets a all-time record for amount of sacks in a season in, you know, Division II football. But when I watched the tape, when I watched the highlights and I saw how he was getting a majority of his sacks, they were hustle sacks. They were sacks with quarterbacks that were indecisive, that were holding on to the ball. Look, you got 3 seconds to get rid of the football, man. Figure out what you're going to do. Check it down. Go through your progressions. If it's not there, you take off, you run, do something. Don't just stand there, though. And a lot of these quarterbacks, they did one of two things. They either held on to the football way too long and he was able to beat his guy after the 5th move, or they panicked after 2 reads and ran into a sack. So I wasn't impressed. He didn't just beat guys off the edge with pure speed. He didn't beat guys with speed to power. He didn't beat guys hard inside or hard outside, back inside. He beat guys because he didn't give up on plays and quarterbacks didn't get rid of the football. And so I wasn't overly impressed. But then I remember him at the combine, and I said to myself, I want to go back and watch tape of this guy because he was ultra impressive at the combine. Here's a guy that's 6'5", 267, 70, 75 pounds, and he's running a 4.8, 4.40, and he physically looks strong. He broad jumped out of this world. I mean, like 10.4, something crazy like that. The vertical was like 5 inches. I mean, he was a freak. So you're looking at this guy. He's huge. He's big. He's got an NFL body, and you're like, he's moving that fast? And you tell me he's got production to match. I want to see more. So I put on the tape, and I just wasn't that impressed, you know? And not to say that this guy doesn't have the ability to turn it up a notch in the National Football League and become a really good football player. I just didn't see it, you know? I saw a guy that played down to his competition sometimes. He got a lot of sacks off of hustle, off of quarterbacks being indecisive with the football. He wasn't just going out and mauling guys and beating guys. I wasn't impressed with him the way I was with a guy that was drafted by the Dolphins in the later rounds. And, you know, and he was a Division II football player. But he showed an array of moves. He was able to get to the quarterback. He had length, and you saw him using that length and that size and the speed. And he had spin moves. He had an array of moves to get to the quarterback. So you saw potential there. I don't really see it here with Zach Moore. But again, 14 sacks is 14 sacks in one season. He had another year where he had 12. So you tell me that in a career that spanned, 4 years, and he had to sit out a year because he was academically ineligible. You tell me that he had 33 sacks essentially in 3 years. That's 11 sacks per season. I can't argue with that type of production. However, I just didn't see it. I didn't see it. And so that has me wondering. But I tell you what, because of the production and the measurables that I saw, the attributes, the skill set that I saw present at the combine, I'll give Zach Moore the benefit of the doubt and say that in the 6th round, he's a double. Defensive end out of Concordia, Zach Moore for me. You can't teach the height, weight, speed that this guy is. He's a height, weight, speed specimen. All right, at 6'5", let's call him 270, running a 4.8, 4.40, jumping as high as he did. The jumping and the leaping, that shows explosiveness. Again, I didn't see it. That doesn't mean it's not there. I just didn't see it on the particular footage that I watched. But I saw it at the combine. So I know it's there. I just need to see it when the pads are on. But he dominated enough. I mean, again, you still got to go out and produce. He did it. So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. They got to work with this guy. He's not ready right now. He's not a finished product. He's not ready to rock and roll. He's not ready to play right now. They need to get their hands on him. They need to teach him how to play at this elite level. They need to teach him how to use his hands, how to translate speed to power. They need to teach him how to be a defensive end. He's going to be a defensive end in this league, and that's what you're going to use him as if he makes this roster. So we move on to the final 6th-round selection, 206th overall, cornerback out of Georgia Tech, Jamea Thomas. To me, this is the quintessential Bill Belichick pick right here, because Bill Belichick loves versatile defenders, especially in his secondary. He wants guys that can play multiple positions, and it doesn't get any more versatile than Jamea Thomas. Here's a guy that played every single position in the secondary, both safety spots, both corners, and he played in the slot as well. So he can play everywhere. All right, so that's not a question of how will this guy get on the field. He'll find a way to get on the field. He's going to play special teams. He was a standout at Georgia Tech as a gunner on special teams, so he gives you value there. He's a small guy, though, at 5'9", about 200 and, let's call him 205 pounds or so. He's solidly built. However, 5'9" is 5'9" is 5'9" is 5'9", especially when you're talking about it, safety. I can't do 5'9" safeties. I'm sorry. And if you're a 5'9" safety, then you better be Bob Sanders. Simply put, if you're going to be a 5'8", 5'9" safety, you better be bringing one hell of a stick. All right? That's not Jamea Thomas. Now, he's not afraid. All right? He's willing to put his hat in there and come down and help and support in the run game. But that doesn't stop guys from just absolutely engulfing him and pushing him out of the way. The first tape that I watched of him was at safety. And I was like, this guy can't be a safety. He can't be. They were just pushing him all over the place. Just every which way. And so the second tape that I popped in was at Miami. He played against Miami, and he was at corner. And I was absolutely impressed with him more so at corner than at safety. And he went up and he climbed the ladder and snagged down a pick on the sidelines. And he was staying step for step for the most part with a lot of these receivers. And he was coming up and he was challenging guys. He wasn't afraid. If I'm going to get beat, I'm going to get beat. But I'm not giving up anything easy. And you know I like that in my cornerback. So Jamea Thomas for me is a guy that's not afraid. He'll come up. He'll support in the run game. And again, he played safety and corner. But as a safety, he was outmatched. As a corner, he can beat that blocker. He can beat that receiver and get in and make a tackle. And so his tackling skills are much more suited for corner more so than safety. His size is much more suited for corner than safety. And so I think as a cornerback, that's where he's going to make his hay in this league. If he's going to make an NFL roster, it's going to be as a cornerback, not a safety. Now, Belichick loves the versatility, knowing that, hey, in a pinch, if we have a slew of injuries at the safety position, this guy, as an emergency, can step in and play safety for me as well. And you know Belichick loves guys that play multiple positions. But if you ask me, this guy is going to be his most valuable to you at cornerback. I don't think he can really help you as a safety. But I like him as a cornerback. I think he's solid. I think he probably can kick inside as a slot corner. I don't know if his movement skills will allow him to be, because he's not as fluid. Again, when you're 5'9" and you're about 205 pounds, you're solidly built, you're compact. So sometimes you're tight, you know, you're a little bit more tighter. And he's a tightly wound type of guy. So I don't know if that lends itself to him playing in the slot or not. But he can blitz too. You know, he had one of these blitzes where he came off the edge free and he lit the quarterback up. And so he's a guy that's versatile, can do a slew of things. And so Jamea Thomas for me, cornerback out of Georgia Tech, 6th round. He's a double. I think he's a solid pick. His versatility is probably what's going to keep him around if he's going to make this team in New England. 7th round, 244th overall selection, wide receiver out of Michigan, Jeremy Gallon is the pick. Here's a guy with huge production out of Michigan. And you watch the tape, and this guy's making plays all over the place. Set a Big Ten record for most receiving yards in a game with 346 or 69 or something crazy like that against Indiana. Watch that tape. He was all over the place. Could have had 400 yards receiving if he could catch the ball cleanly all the time. I didn't even realize the guy was 5'7". I mean, watching the tape, he plays a little bit bigger than 5'7". I didn't realize he was that small, but yeah, he's 5'7". So, I mean, hard to really do something with that stature in this league. But he's a guy that understands route concepts, understands how to sit down in zone, can get open. I think he's a guy that, with the right coaching, could be a slot, could be a new Wes Welker for you down the road. Could be, the replacement for Danny Amendola. And I'm thinking that's why the Patriots drafted him, because Danny Amendola was so disappointing last year, was banged up, and that's what Danny Amendola does. He gets injured, that they're looking at him as possibly a replacement for him. If they could coach him up, they get what they think they're getting out of him, they won't hesitate to get rid of a guy like Danny Amendola or try to trade him away to someone. And so we'll see what the Patriots have in mind for Jeremy Gallen, but he provides you with some special teams prowess as well, can return kicks. And so he's a guy, he's interesting for me because I think he can make some plays. He does not possess top end speed, however. And I was disappointed in him from that standpoint because you watch him on tape and he gets behind the defense. He always gets caught from behind. And I'm like, man, if you're going to be that small, I need you to score touchdowns when you get loose. When you catch a bubble screen and it's perfectly blocked and you hit to that last defender and you beat him, that guy can't recover and catch you, 40 yards down the field and tackle you at the 7-yard line. I need that to be a touchdown, not, first and goal from the 7, because now we might have to settle for a field goal. I need you to score touchdowns. When you pop it on that seam route, run right by that cornerback, and that safety comes over late, he shouldn't be able to catch you, but he does. He does normally. And so I'd like to see him score more often when he beats guys deep. But hey, if you don't have it, you don't have it. And he didn't have that type of juice. But where his value will be is in the slot, winning one-on-one matchups, sitting down in zone coverage. He's a smart football player, but he has lapses in concentration where he'll drop the football. That is also disappointing from a guy that has to make his living making tough catches in traffic. When you're open, you got to catch the football. When you're not open, you got to catch the football, and he'll drop it every now and again. But still, with all that being said, the production, what he brings to the table, his skill set is a specific slot receiver type of skill set that the Patriots can and will use if this guy comes in and proves to be an asset. And so in the 7th round, 244th overall selection, wide receiver out of Michigan, Jeremy Gallen for me is a double to round out the Patriots draft. And so Dominique Easley, 1st round, is a triple. Want to see how he comes back from the ACL injury. If he's the same guy, it's a home run. But because I don't know that, he's a triple. Jimmy Garoppolo, love the pick. He's a guy that's the heir apparent to the throne in New England at the quarterback position. He's a triple. Brian Stork, as solid as it gets at the center position, has a few limitations, but the guy is extremely solid. He's a double. James White, just another back in the stable of backs in New England. He's a double. Cameron Fleming does not get beat. He's a triple. John Halapiu, a guard out of Florida. He can move. He's strong as an ox. Has issues when guys are more athletic than he is, but he's a double. Zach Moore, high production in college. Didn't see the explosiveness that I was looking for on tape, but he has all the measurables, all the skill set necessary to be elite. He's a double. Jamea Thomas, versatility, versatility, versatility. Can play all 4 positions in the secondary. He is a double. And Jeremy Gallen, diminutive slot guy out of Michigan. Played out wide at Michigan, played in the slot at Michigan, going to play in the slot in the NFL. If he makes a squad, he is a double to round out their draft. 3, 6, 8, 10, 13, 15, 17, 19, 21. Let's check your bonuses. 1, 2, 3 triples. So you get a triple bonus that takes us to 24. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 doubles. So 2 doubles bonuses. That takes us from 24 to 28. You divide that by 9. It's a triple for the New England Patriots in this draft. It's a solid triple. It's a 3.1 triple to be exact for this Patriots draft. they were able to go and get a bunch of doubles and 3 triples, no singles to bring down the average. And so it's a solid draft. Again, a draft full of guys with potential, but you got to get the most out of them. And Garoppolo, you won't see him for 3 years. Easley, what is he going to be after the injury? And so Cameron, Fleming, Jalapeno, some of these guys can start for you. I just don't know if they're going to start for you right away. Don't think they're going to start for you right away. So, you know, James White, just another guy. Brian Stork, he's not starting right away, but in a year or two, he could be a starter for you. So those are the type of guys you went out and got. Guys that you probably won't reap benefits from till 2 or 3 years down the road. This draft will be graded on a sharp curve because you can't tell if these guys are going to help you right away or not. I think these guys are going to help you in 2 or 3 years down the road. So it's a triple for the Patriots in the 2014 NFL Draft Wrap-Up Series. If it happens in the National Football League, whether big or small, we cover it all here in the Lab Room. I thank you for joining me. One question remains. Who's next?
Draft Zone.
Like the content? Want more? Sub up.